one of the things that we try to do in Facing Human Wrongs is to develop, to expand our collective capacity in depth, complexity, or systems literacies. And here are 3 of them. And without these 3 capacities, we can't do any of the steps back or the steps forward that are going to be presented next. So the first depth, complexity, or system literacy is diffractive reasoning. So like light diffracting and creating a prism, diffractive reasoning is the capacity to both identify and to hold different moving layers of reality and complexity, including the tensions and paradoxes that you find in these layers without flattening the layers. So in modern education, modern society, we are encouraged and trained to flatten all the layers of reality and see things in one layer and impose coherence on that layer. And it is the saturation of that layer that is creating a lot of mental health problems, because if we can't hold space for the multiple layers of complexity and we saturate this flattened layer trying to impose coherence, and that doesn't work, we lose our sense of well-being. And then we are either we are on the edge, or we see an increase in anxiety, depression, and even self-harm. And from where we are reading it through the kind of psychoanalysis we learned from the communities, the non-Western psychoanalysis, the first step is to expand, this first step to address mental health, the collective mental health crisis, is to expand people's capacity to hold space for these multiple layers of complexity, for what's difficult and painful, without feeling overwhelmed, immobilized, or demanding to be rescued from that, or demanding quick fixes. The second one is the capacity for psychodynamic self-assessment, the capacity to observe and learn from the dynamic of one's multiple cognitive, affective, and relational responses without over-identifying with a single response. So the bus within us is the methodology we mostly use to do this. And the idea here is that if you can't sit with your own complexity, and interrupt the Cartesian subjectivity that is very flattened and believes it's self-transparent. If you don't interrupt that, then you cannot sit with the complexity outside of you. So the diffractive reasoning is applied to the self. It's not only applied to the reality around us. And then there's polysemic awareness, which is the capacity to observe language in movement. That language is always ambivalent and in being socially and culturally produced. So meaning is never static. There are multiple layers of meaning, but meaning can also be an entity that is playing with you. And it's not just something that humans produce, but that could be coming from the land. In ceremonies, we are told that the songs will come to you, and you do need to have a relationship with them. So the songs and the stories are entities. And when we start to see language in this movement way rather than the form way, the fixed form way that is in the dictionary, that is static, a lot of other things open up in terms of how we can see the world differently and see different things in the world and be moved to dance with the world in a very different way. So you've had the 7 steps back. Now it's the invitation for 7 steps forward. And that's what the course is also focused on. So the 7 steps forward or aside are an invitation. The first one is an invitation to step forward or aside with honesty and courage to see what you don't want to see. Commit to expanding your capacity to sit with what's real, difficult, and painful. As Cash said, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the broken of humanity within and around you. So questions like, in what ways are your projections, idealizations, expectations, hopes, fears, and fragilities preventing you from approaching the aspects of the problem that are unpleasant for you and that challenge your sense of reality or your self-image? What aspects of the challenge at hand are you not willing or ready to see? And how does this impair your ability to address the bigger challenge itself? Number 2, step forward with humility to find strength in openness and vulnerability. Commit to shedding your conditioned arrogance and sense of merit, status, and self-importance in order to decenter yourself and center the challenge you're trying to address. In what ways are you reproducing patterns that center your desire for recognition, validation, prestige, or protagonism? Like the savior complex again. How can these desires limit your capacity to build relationships and to mobilize the coordination that is necessary for the challenge at hand? Step forward, number 3, step forward or aside with self-reflexivity so that you can read yourself and learn to read the room. So commit to tracing where your cognitive, affective, and relational patterns of engaging with reality are coming from, where they're at, where they're going, their limitations, and the ways they impact others and are part of the problem. Learn to step back from yourself in order to read the room and to read how you and what you're doing unconsciously and consciously are being read in the room. Learn to see yourself from other people's perspectives, especially the unflattering parts, and learn to be okay with that. You won't be able to control it anyway. We are all cute and pathetic. Number 4, step forward or aside with self-discipline to do the work on yourself so that you don't become work for other people. Commit to identifying and interrupting compulsions and impulses grounded on socially sanctioned and conditioned harmful patterns such as greed, vanity, arrogance, indifference, indulgence, extraction and consumption of time, labor, or energy of others. To what extent are you aware of your own compulsions and unhealthy reality coping mechanisms? How do you justify the continuity of these patterns on yourself? Step 5, step forward or aside with maturity to do what is needed rather than only what you want to do. Commit to the long-term project of becoming a good elder and ancestor for all relations, taking into account that mainstream culture encourages and rewards self-infantilization and the denial of responsibility. How can you reorient yourself towards eldership and generational accountability? To what extent are you aware of the complexities of your own thoughts, emotions, investments, and patterns of relationship building, the internal conversations that are happening within you? What stories that you're telling yourself need to be further examined? What learning and unlearning have you been avoiding? And why, and at what cost for yourself and for others? Then step back with expanding discernment and attention. Commit to expanding your capacity for discernment in proportion to the increase in complexity. This includes your capacity to read across time and across different layers of reality and to hold paradoxes, tensions, and uncertainties in view. What do you need to learn and unlearn cognitively, affectively, and relationally in order not to be immobilized or overwhelmed by complexity, ambiguity, plurality, and unknowability? And finally, step forward or aside with adaptability, flexibility, stamina, and resilience for the long haul. Move for the sake of learning to coordinate and be transformed by the process rather than arrive somewhere. Be prepared to fall, to fail, to have your plans shattered, to be stretched, to have your hearts broken, open, not apart, to change course and to find joy in the struggle itself rather than in the imagined prize at the end. To what extent are your desires and calculations to arrive at a predetermined destination preventing you from engaging in the experiments and experimentations whose failures will provide the data for new directions to take and better places we may aspire to go that we cannot imagine from the outset?